Yes, good evening and welcome to tonight's program on the 24th of January 2021. Tonight I am not going to preach, but I'm going to guide. I'm going to mentor. So it's a discussion. Unfortunately, I cannot open lines for people to call through. But then you can engage by typing in there, and then I'll be able to respond to what I can respond to. You know, there are many churches today, and some more churches will be formed. Others are closing down or shutting down. So now there is this cycle. People coming into ministry, some others going out, others giving up, others resigning. Sure, there's a lot going on. So there could be a confusion on some people as to how do I identify that I am called. So now I want you to understand the call. So now the following discussion or the following points that I'm going to mention here are based on 20 years experience, 20 years of speaking to different pastors, 20 years of observation, and 20 years of just studying the Word of God and see how prophets and apostles were called in the Bible, and look at patterns and say this is the pattern. So now remember, if you're unable to hear God on a particular matter, it will be good for you to observe the patterns as to how that thing happens in the Bible. So now, being called into ministry, it's a big decision. It's not an ordinary decision. And it's so difficult to come up with a formula and say, this is the formula of being called into ministry. You cannot come up with a formula. No, you can't. And besides, the conditions right now are quite different to what it was before. Today, there is globalization, there is media, there is economic circumstances to look up to, there is debt, there's housing, so many things to consider. And some of these things could discourage you from going into ministry, but some of it could open your eyes as to for you to evaluate yourself to see whether you are called into ministry or not. So like I said, I'm just discussing. I am not coming up with a formula. I am not coming up with definite ways and saying, no, if you see this, you must know that definitely you are called. You know, I can't do that. Each and every calling of a person is different. But here, like I said, it's 20 years of observation, 20 years of interviewing pastors, 20 years of studying the word, and 20 years of general outlook of life, and also about 30 years of working experience, 25 years in corporate, 8 years in government, in education. So now it's a collective of experiences that relates to what I'm talking about today, how to identify a call. So if we look at 1 Corinthians chapter 13, Paul finds it difficult to explain what love is. So now to make it easy for him to explain what love is, he starts by explaining what love is not. So it was easier for him to go into explanation of what really love is by explaining what love is not. Now the same applies to this approach. I'm going to adopt that approach. A call must not be determined by the following. You cannot see the following signs happening and think, oh, automatically that you are called into ministry. Number one, physical manifestations. I know some of you, you could be available in your ministry to assist your pastor or to do certain things, to pray for people. And then when you pray for people, people begin to fall. Things start happening around you. People get delivered because you prayed for them. It does not necessarily mean that you are called. You may be called into support ministry. You may be called into intercession, but within a particular ministry, not to go on a ministry on your own. A call is not identified by emotions. You know, sometimes we get emotional when we see situations. We see people suffering, or we see false preachers preaching. Then we tend to get emotional and say, sure, I think I can go out there and do better. So now you must put that aside. Number three, ministry is not about a career motive. Career, you know, a career is when you start low, you grow up until you become something up there. Because there are some people that look at bishops and say, yo, I want to be that bishop. I want to be called bishop. I want that hat. I want that rod. I want that recognition. I want that exposure. No, it's not about career motive. Ministry is not about career. So now remember, there are three things to consider. There is a job, there is work, and there is a calling. These three things are different, even though work and calling could be related, but they are different. A job is something that you do for money, to make money, to support your family. You are doing a particular job. That is, you get paid to do it. It means if you don't get paid, you don't do it. You've got no conviction as to, I need to do my job. No. And you've got no accountability to anyone except yourself. That is a job. So now, ministry is not a job. It's not a job. So now you must never, ever say, I want to go into ministry because I want to make money and be able to support my family. No, it's not a job. Because in ministry, you may not necessarily be paid. And as a matter of fact, you won't be paid. Who will pay you if you are starting ministry on your own? So now you will try and generate money for yourself to pay for yourself. That is when you start going into error, forcing people to give money, extorting money from people, extorting money from people, blackmailing people, starting to sell oil, to sell water, just to make money so that you can be able to make a living. That's not the right way of going into ministry. Ministry is not about family tradition. Just because your father is a pastor does not necessarily mean that you will be called into being a pastor as well. So it is important. It's very, very important that you understand that. And some people, you place pastors' kids under pressure. You say, but your dad is a pastor. You must be a pastor as well. No, not necessarily so. Not necessarily so. It may be, but not necessarily so. We have seen people going into ministry just because somebody had a father who was a pastor. Look at John Osteen from Texas, or from the US. I don't know what state he is from. John Osteen. He was a very, very powerful evangelical pastor. Successful ministry in Lakewood. When he passed on, Joel Osteen was not even pastor. He was not even involved in ministry. But he took over just because he was the son of John Osteen. We know the kind of things that Joel Osteen is preaching right now. You can tell that the guy really, he may be a nice person, but then is he called? Is he called into ministry? You can answer that question on your own. So just because you've got family that is pastor does not necessarily mean that your children will be pastors. Or just because your dad is a pastor does not necessarily mean that you will be called into being a pastor as well. You need to understand that. Opinions of people. You know, people have got opinions, eh? People can see you preaching one day or see you in the street one day. They see the way that you dress, and then they start calling you pastor. Hey, they say you should go into ministry. You should go into ministry. No, maybe people can confirm what God has spoken to you about, but then you should not take what people are saying as a sign that you are called into ministry because they say they've got opinions about your calling. Look, personally, I was told that I will be a pastor when I was still 7 years of age. But I didn't go into ministry that time. It took me close to 30 years for me to go into ministry. 30 years after being prophesied. So now you are not going to listen to prophecy from people prophesying upon you and say that you are going to be a pastor, you're going to be a powerful man. You know, some prophecies, I mean, as you know, some prophecies are motivated by money, some are motivated by excitement, some of them are motivated by that somebody wants to say something. Some prophecies are motivated by people wanting to please you. Some prophecies are really you take prophecies with a pinch of salt. If God has not spoken to you about the prophecy that's coming to you, please take that prophecy, put it on the shelf. You don't act on it. No, you don't. You put it on the shelf up until God speaks to you. So many people have gone into ministry because they were prophesied that they will be pastors. And today they are regretting. Today they are regretting why they took that call. Point number next. You do not go into ministry because it's a comfortable position for you. You know, you've got people that fail at school. They fail at varsity. They fail hopelessly so. And they say, no, let me try ministry. No, ministry is not about trying because you failed elsewhere. And as a matter of fact, God calls somebody who is busy. I know of a pastor in Bloemfontein. I will not mention his name because I don't have his permission. He was busy doing medicine. 4th year medicine, doing quite well in medicine. 4th year medicine. He was left with only 2 years and 1 year of internship to qualify as a medical doctor. The call of God got so strong for him. Then he quit. People said, but then why do you quit medicine? It's a good profession, stability, you'll make money and everything else. He said, I can't continue. God does not want me to continue. And now he is a successful pastor in Bloemfontein. So now, you must understand that you are not going to choose ministry because it's comfortable for you. That's where you feel comfortable because all other things were difficult. Point number next. You do not go into ministry because you have served long in a particular ministry. Suppose you've been an usher for 15 years or you've been in the choir for 20 years and all of a sudden then you go and become a pastor. I mean, you may have seen some music legends. People that sang gospel music for quite a long time. All of them now are pastors. Really? Were they called into being pastors, or they simply switched just because now there was competition in the music industry? Or should they have stayed as music ministers in particular ministries where they would be serving? No, you must be very, very careful. You must be very, very careful. So people make mistakes. They want to go into pastor. They say, no, but then I've been an usher too long. Or I've been in the choir for too long. Or I've served for too long. You know, now I think I need to be promoted and be a pastor now. No, being a pastor is not a promotion. Being a pastor is not a promotion. It's a special call. It's a special call from God. So then, I've explained what a calling is not. I've mentioned a couple of points, maybe 5 or 6 or so. So I suggest that this recording, please go and visit it again. I'll be taking it and putting it onto YouTube under my name so that it can be available for everybody around the world for any time they want to. So you can refer people to this because it will help many people. It will help many people. So now, how do you analyze the process of being called? You know, there has to be a divine encounter. A divine encounter is an encounter that you do not understand, that does not make sense to you. Unbelievable passion. Unbelievable passion. When this comes, you don't even look into your physical circumstances. Nothing else matters but this divine encounter. It is inexplicable. You cannot define it. You simply cannot explain it. You get this thing, it pushes you, it burns within you. When you are not doing it, you don't feel right. So now, whenever you are called into ministry, you need to feel that you are not worth it. If it's God calling you, let me tell you, you must feel that you are not worth it. You must feel that you are not ready. You must feel, why me? You must feel that God made a mistake. If you have that feeling all of a sudden, you say, oh God, yes, thank you, I'm ready, God, I'm going to go in. Then you are not called. You are not called. No, I refuse. You can look at the pattern. All of the people in the Old Testament, when they were called, they looked behind and say, God, who are you talking about? But Gideon, they were called men of valor. They said, hey, God, who are you talking about? Me? Me, or the person behind me? So now you need to understand, when God calls you, you need to feel unworthy. I mean, Paul, when he was called, he thought, me. I've killed many people. I have killed many people who believed in Christ. Why me? So now you need to understand this call. Look, this will help you. This will help you because we don't want you to make a mistake. You go into ministry 3 years down the line because you are feeling the heat, then you quit ministry. You cannot quit ministry if you are called. Ministry is unquittable. People must not understand why you keep on doing it in spite of all the frustrations, the betrayal, the lack of money, the hunger. People must not understand, why you're still holding on to it. So, and also you must feel unworthy. You can find that in 2 Corinthians chapter 3, verse 5 and 6. You can just go and read there. Lydia started the Philippian church. They felt they're not worth it. Why? Because they were women. They were women. They did not know what to do. So it's very, very important that you realize that if you feel that way now, you can do it. Hey, me. Oh, ministry, I'm going in there. I mean, some people even fight for the pulpit. So now if you think you are called into ministry, but then you start by breaking another ministry to start yours, then you must know that you are not called. When you are called into ministry, you must be prepared to start on your own. Not break somebody's ministry, not push somebody off the pulpit so that you can be able to take over. Taking over is not a calling. There is no one in the Bible, in the entire Bible, that took over from somebody. Joshua did not push Moses so that he can take over. Elisha did not push Elijah so he can take over. No. By the way, the people that push over other people actually get into trouble. Do you remember the story of Miriam and Aaron? Miriam and Aaron ganged up against Moses. Just because Miriam was a prophet. She was a prophet. She was called a prophet. She was called a prophetess, by the way. I think she's the first person in the Old Testament to be called a prophetess. They ganged up with Aaron because Aaron was in the Levitical priesthood, was called to serve under Moses. Then they spoke and they said, but did God only speak through Moses? Why couldn't he speak to us as well? No, that is not how you go into ministry. Some of you are called to serve under people. Aaron was only effective as long as he served under Moses. Miriam was effective as a prophetess as long as she served under Moses. So now some other people don't understand submission and they make mistakes. Now, you need to get confirmation. When you get this calling inside of you, men of God must confirm. Reputable men of God. And they must not confirm just because they are excited that you preached. Some people that may come and confirm to you may be people that don't even know your background. People start calling you pastor and they don't even know where you come from. But then even when people confirm, please take it and put it on a shelf until God really speaks to you. And then when you get this calling, you must have the desire to equip yourself. You must have this desire all of a sudden and say, no, I can't have enough. I need to fast. I need to study the word. I need to go to Bible school. You need to start to prioritize your knowledge acquisition. You need to start investing in knowledge. You need to visit Come Bookshop. You need to spend time in Come Bookshop buying books. You must have books. Just like you see. You must have books. You need to equip yourself. What kind of a pastor are you going to be if you do not read? Remember, the anointing starts from above. You need to encourage the people in your ministry to read. If you do not read yourself, how are you going to pass on this anointing of reading? How is it going to filter down through to them? Because it should start at the head. So now, if you are called and you are not reading, something's wrong. Something is wrong. If you are called, you do not attend conferences. You do not attend other pastors' conventions. You do not go to evangelistic tents to go and learn how it's done. Then you are not called. If you don't have that desire, during our days, we had this desire. When they said Evangelist Nene is preaching at Apostolic Faith Mission here in Kagiso, we would go in there to listen to Evangelist Nene preach. When they said Rally Khulela is coming, it was time for excitement for us. When they said Bonke is around, we would go in there. So now these days, people are called into ministry. They don't want to listen to anyone. And these days, it's much more easier to gain knowledge. You know, there is YouTube and everything else. If you are called, you will start to accumulate. You would know all these preachers from Nigeria, from Ghana. You start getting involved, studying. That is if you are called. If you are not called, then you will not have this desire. You will not have this desire. And if you don't have this desire to know more, if you don't have this desire to study, and you claim to be called, then I question your calling. I question your calling. Being available in ministry does not mean that you are called. Now, some people think they are called just because they can speak well. No, it's not about speaking well. Like I said, it's not about you being available in ministry. It's not you being prioritized for succession planning. No, ministry is not about succession. I've shown you, I've told you about Joel Osteen. That's a succession planning kind of appointment. Is it successful? I don't know. You make your own observation. If you are a succession planning kind of a person, let me tell you, you are going to compromise the vision of the ministry that you are taking over. You are going to change things. You are going to change things. You are going to try and align to the world. You are going to try and accept the things that were unacceptable when that ministry was formed. You are going to change it into your own. So now you need to understand this. You need to understand this. Now, if you are called into being a pastor, you need to have started to function in that office even before you are ordained. Yeah. You need to be doing pastoral work already if you are called to be a pastor in ministry, one way or another. Without the title, you need to be doing that kind of work already. If you are called to be an evangelist, you need to be doing that kind of work already before they ordain you as an evangelist. Wherever you go, you need to see the fields that are green and ready to be harvested. You need to see that opportunity wherever you are. At work, you need to see that opportunity of being an evangelist. You need to see that opportunity. If you don't see that opportunity wherever you are, then you are not called. You are not called. If you are a Christian only on Sunday, but during the week you live like a devil, then you are not called. You need to be consistent. You need to be living that calling already. Look, there are some people, when you go to their churches, the way they are acting, you may think, this is Pastor so and so. The way they come to church, the way they dress, the way they get involved, the way they submit to the pastor, the way they take care of things, and the way they get so involved without even questioning anything. The way, you ask yourself, is this person a pastor here? And actually, when you go into that ministry for the first time, you need to mistake them for being a pastor in that ministry. You need to mistake them for being a pastor. Why? Because there must not be any difference between the pastor and them. There must not be any difference. You can tell that no, this one is going to be the pastor. This one will be pastor. This one is acting like a pastor. This one is dealing people like a pastor. But in somebody that is sowing division, you can tell that they are not a pastor. They can't. They can't be a pastor. No. Somebody who's going to be a pastor must have the spirit of unification. Conflict resolution must be one of their strong points. Rebuking those that are gossiping, rebuking those that are doing bad things. People that stand up, and when they see a gap in ministry, they stand up and fill that gap without being told. If you still want to be told what to do, then you are not called. Then you are not called. Because tell me, who told Moses what to do? Who told Moses what to do? Did Moses have somebody say, Moses, hey, please do this. Hey, Moses, do this. And then Joshua, that. No, initiative. Initiative. Guys like Joshua, they were inquisitive. They followed Moses wherever Moses went. When Moses went to Mount Sinai, Joshua followed him and stayed far away, observing. When Moses fasted 40 days, Joshua fasted, not knowing that he is fasting. Why? Because he followed Moses. But Elisha, they were just following Elijah, just following, doing everything and respecting. You could tell that this one is called. So now you need to be acting. Elisha acted in the office of a prophet, even when Elijah was still around. So now you need to understand this. So some people think that a calling is something where God's going to call you, and then you just go in there and all of a sudden you've got money, all of a sudden you're called bishop, all of a sudden you've got a big church. No, it's a process. It is a process. So I'm just in here sharing with you, helping you to decide, because I don't want you to make a mistake thinking just because you can preach, you are called. Thinking just because you are available, thinking that you are called. It's very, very important. Sorry, I've got load shedding here, so like I said, you need to have the desire to be equipped. Studying is one of them. Do you know what Paul told Timothy? Study to show yourself approved. Study. Why? Paul was a scholar. He knew the Jewish law in and out. Timothy was young. Timothy had the enthusiasm. Paul said, hey, Timothy, Ntuan, for you to succeed, study. 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 You are not going to be great just because you're following me. No, you need to study. And do not neglect the gift that people are confirming. People have laid hands upon you, Timothy. You must stir that gift up. You need to stir your gift up. You need to stir it. You stir it by not fighting for the pulpit with your pastor. No. How many pastors today who want to go into being pastors want to lead a home cell? Want to lead an ordinary home cell? You cannot even trust God with your house. When the pastor says, how many people are willing to open their houses for home cell? No, you don't want to. Why? Because it's your house. It will be made dirty. people will come and see what you have. No. Then if you are not willing to give your house, then you can't be a pastor. You can't be a pastor. I refuse. So now, point number next, you need to be bearing fruit. Are you bearing fruit now? In your office as an assistant, in your office as a church member, are you bearing fruit now? Can people come to you? Are you bearing fruit? Can the pastor phone you and say, hey, Mr. X, please just go and stand in for me at house number so and so. There's a prayer meeting. I'm not available today because I'm preaching somewhere else. Do people have confidence in your ability? If people don't have confidence in what you do, then I don't think you are called. I don't think you are called. So now, I am going to ask a few questions. Now, these questions you must ask yourself. You must ask yourself and answer yourself honestly. Honestly. If you can't answer these questions honestly, then you'll be deceiving yourself. You'll be fooling yourself. Number one, do you have an overwhelming concern of the welfare of people? Do you have an overwhelming concern for the welfare of people, either spiritually, physically, emotionally? Do you have that concern? If you don't have that concern for people, and then you are not called. It means if you've got concern for the welfare of people, it means you've got this desire to be able to fill that gap. If you say, hi, angazi, uzosibona, utlayibona, no, one side. As long as me and my house are there, as long as me, then you are not called. But then if you've got an overwhelming concern, if you don't see anybody coming to church for 2-3 weeks, if you don't see them, do you have a concern and say, hey, I haven't seen X, I haven't seen Y. Hey, it's 3 weeks now. Let me take the phone. Let me phone them without being told by the pastor. Without being told. You just go and ask the cell phone maybe from the admin of the church or from somebody that knows them. You phone them independently on your own and say, hey, Tate, man, are you okay? Now, these people that want to be told what to do all the time, remember, ministry is not a job. In a job, you are given job description, you are given targets, you are evaluated every month, you are put in a job performance. Ministry, we don't have such things. Ministry, we don't have such things. Number two, are you prepared to make sacrifices in your life? Are you prepared to make sacrifices in your life? Sorry, I need to put my book here so that I can be able to see well. Like I said, we've got load shedding right now in our area. So now I'm operating on the battery right now and artificial lights. I hope I am clear on your phones. Are you prepared to make sacrifices that the ministry may require? Sacrifices, finances. Are you prepared to finance certain projects on your own? Because let me tell you, ministry has got no money, eh? Especially if you are called into the townships. There's just no money. Poverty is galore. People don't have money. People don't earn enough. People have got problems. There are some things that you may need to sacrifice yourself, finance them, sacrifice your family, sacrifice certain things, sacrifice your joy in order to finance the ministry. Are you prepared to sacrifice? Remember, sacrifice, it means, you know, when they did animal sacrifice in the Old Testament, I want you to picture this. You take your cow, you slaughter it, you put it in the fire, it burns. It means the meat is not edible. You are not going to eat that meat. That is why it was called a sacrifice. It means you do not benefit from it. You do not benefit from it. That is a sacrifice. But then some people want to treat it as an investment. No, ministry is not an investment. Ministry is a sacrifice. It means you are going to lose. You are not going to benefit anything personally. And you are not going to count and say, I've sacrificed this. No, it is not up to you to count. It's God who's going to reward you if he rewards you. And there is a chance that he may not reward you. Why? Because it's a sacrifice. Now, can you just imagine in the Old Testament, they will take the whole cow and put it in the fire and burn it. It does not even ask them, oh, are you hungry? Have you had meat? Are you having veggies today? No, you take the meat, you go and burn it. It's unlike the sacrifices that people do for the ancestors. They say they sacrifice for the ancestors. They kill a goat, they kill chickens, they kill all those kind of things, and then they cook the meat and they eat it. That can't be a sacrifice. It cannot be a sacrifice. It's a false sacrifice. Why? Because they're benefiting. They're killing that meat, cooking it and eating it. They say they're sacrificing to Badimo. No, if it's sacrificed to Badimo, let Badimo come and eat. Let them not benefit. Then that is a sacrifice. So now you need to understand these things. You need to understand these things. Number 3, are you willing to share your life with others? Are you willing to share your life with others? To share your time? Are you willing to be open to other people? Are you willing to share your life with others? If you're not willing to share your life with others, then you are not called. You need to be able to share your life with others. Not a portion of your life. If you want to have your me time, after 4 o'clock, you say, no, this is my me time now. You switch off the phone. You are not interacting with anyone. You don't take calls. You don't do anything. Then you are not ready. Then you're not ready. Number 4, are you willing to get involved in other people's problems? Hey, you must know that people have got problems. People have got problems out there. Are you willing to get involved in solving other people's problems? Can you just imagine just a household alone? There's fighting between husband and wife, and then there's fighting between teenagers and parents. There's fighting among siblings, and there's fighting financial wise, and then there's fighting between neighbors, and there's fighting between members of the church. And then you need to get involved in all those problems. Are you willing to enter those problems and solve those problems now? Are you willing to be a mediator? If you're not willing to enter that space, then you need to reconsider. Maybe you are not called. Maybe you are not called. Number 5, do you have the courage to persevere against all odds? Do you have the courage to persevere? Ministry is about perseverance. Ministry is about intensity and perseverance. Ministry is about pushing. Because there will be opposition. The devil will be pushing, and the devil will be sending people to oppose you. The government will oppose you on the other side. The community will oppose you on another side. The community will come and tell you that you are making noise. You can't pitch a tent there because you're making noise. So are you willing to persevere? You need to have that spirit. You need to have that drive. If you don't have that drive, then you are not called. Here's one important one. Are you faithful and committed in your local church right now? If you are not committed in a local church right now, and then you are not called. You are not called. If you don't have a church that you belong to and committed, even tithing there, sacrificing there, doing pastoral work there right now. If you do not have such a church right now, then you are not called. Then you are not called. Forget it. You are not called. Last 2 questions. Do you find fulfillment? Do you find fulfillment in doing any other thing other than ministry work? I don't know if you understand that one. Do you find fulfillment in doing any other thing than ministry? If there's something else that fulfills you, then you are not called. So now, let me give you an example. If somebody has come to you with a problem and you spend most of your time solving that problem and everything else, and you sleep well after solving that problem, you feel fulfilled, then it's okay. Then that's great. But then if you still get fulfilled by certain things and you are not fulfilled by ministry work, then you are not called. Ministry must fulfill you. You must sleep well at night. You must sleep well at night. You must feel content if you wake up at 12 o'clock to pray for people. You must feel content without complaining. You must feel happy. You must feel fulfilled. You must feel, mission accomplished. If you do not have that feeling of, mission accomplished, then there's something wrong. Last one. Will you be happy doing other things other than ministry? Answer yourself these questions. It's not up to me. Remember, what I'm giving is not a formula. It's not a formula. Can I give you some scriptures that you can refer to? Ezekiel 3 from verse 11. 2 Corinthians 3 verse 5 and 6. 1 Timothy chapter 1 verse 18. 1 Timothy chapter 4 verse 12. 1 Timothy chapter 6 verse 20. 2 Timothy chapter 4 verse 5. There it is. We're trying to assist you. We're trying to assist you. Ministry must fulfill you. If it doesn't fulfill you, then you are in the wrong place. To be fulfilled does not mean that you're full of, you've got money, you've got people cooperating. No, But then, do you feel fulfilled in ministry? Do you sleep well at night? You may be hungry, but you may be fulfilled in your hunger. You may not have money in the bank account, but you may feel fulfilled without money in your bank account. You may be frustrated on certain issues, but then you feel fulfilled in that frustration that things are not coming together. Thank you very much for joining me this evening. I hope you've enjoyed this teaching this evening. If you're not fulfilled, then there's something wrong. Let God help you. If you're fighting for the pulpit, there's something wrong. There is something wrong. Remember, there is no one in the Bible that fought somebody else so that they can be able to take over. There is no one, none whatsoever in the whole Bible. Thank you very much for joining me. Have a blessed evening. Thank you very much.